Welcome back, part 3 of this Voidlight playthrough. Of course, Voidlight playtest from Far RPGs for a new sci-fi horror game. Outer space, industrial, dark, bleak sort of vibes. Mind you, you can adjust that as needed. I think the rules have a lot of flexibility. So our intrepid space explorers, Raheem and Faith here, have just survived an encounter with some kind of strange spiritual entity coming out of the statue that Faith was pursuing as a part of her religious beliefs. And now they're like in worse shape. Raheem has been shot. They use their sort of only healing component to keep him from dying. So he's not in the greatest of shape, but they still want to keep exploring because they haven't gotten anything of value yet. And it'd probably cost a pretty penny to get their ship over here. So they need to turn a profit. Our primary problem, though, is that our void light, the thing that keeps this place lit at all, and us as safe as we're going to be, is starting to run out of battery. We've got a spare battery pack, but that's not worth messing around with. And we do have a generator here with some limited use. So I think I specified maybe in the first video how I thought the generator should work, but I've sort of rethought that now. So I think the generator has probably has like 6 dice of juice in it, but it's going to take some time to transfer that power into our void light itself. So Faith is going to take the lead on this one because she's the least hurt, and sort of feels bad about her friend being in such a rough state. Now, Faith ran through her stamina, and I did a procedure wrong. I restored stamina to full. That is not how it works. That was an old version of the playtest. That's not currently. It's been revised so that you now roll your stamina to see what its new setting is. And hers is down to 2 again at this point. So we should make these rolls. We should make these rolls. So Faith is going to go in, and the threat here in this room is that it's extremely cold, and she's going to have to stay here for long enough, charging up that void light, that she is going to have to make a save against some kind of harm coming from freezing to death. So Faith's vigor is 1 here. I think because our void light is charging, we do not gain the advantage of having run it on high beam, plus we need to be a little more conservative with it. So I think it's just the 1 die here to resist the cold in this chamber. And we do not. So we are going to roll 2 for our stamina to try and resist here. I'm just going to grab a couple of spare dice so that we can continue to track. Okay, so we still, we're not taking any damage here because we did get a success. However, we are losing one of those dice that did not succeed. So her stamina is now down to a 1. I think spending a little bit of time in there, that gives us 3 dice of void light back. I think there's 3 more dice in there of juice. I think I'm going to chance it and try and get the next 2, and then maybe leave that 1 for an emergency. So we're going to roll her vigor again. Not great. Now we're going to roll her stamina, her 1 stamina remaining. Nope, not great either. I think the cold is just going to deal 1 hit point here. Well, you know what? We're solo gaming. Let's ask the Oracle. Oracle, should the freezing of this chamber deal more than a single damage? I think there's a decent chance of that. So we're going to roll 2. And if we get a single yes, I believe that's like a yes, but there's some kind of stipulation to it. Okay, we did get a full success. So yes, but what else? Yes, but I think we need to get her warmed up. Otherwise, she's going to lose another hit point. So I think for this next room, she's going to be kind of out of commission. I think she's going to need to huddle in the corner here. And also, her stamina's been spent, so we're going to roll to refresh it to 2. That's not great. All right. At any rate, though, we do spend the time in there. We do charge our void light up to full. So we're definitely running that thing on high beam so that we can get an extra die to get that advantage from the Voidlight to give us an extra die on a lot of these rolls. All right, our Voidlight charged, everyone worse for wear. We're gonna check out this chamber here. Now, I did some rolling off screen to determine what was in these remaining chambers. To do that, I cracked open a couple of the random charts from the book. In particular, my poison of choice for determining these rooms was the sector section. I'd roll for mood, for function. Function sort of tells us what kind of chamber this is. Mostly mood gives us an idea of like what the vibe is. And then feature and hazard sort of gave me some ideas of like what's interesting or challenging here. What could we possibly earn? You know, is there a monster here? Is there not? Is there some kind of environmental challenge? I really liked how that randomly worked out for this cargo chamber here with the coolant leaking everywhere. So we're gonna see here in a minute how I think things shape up for these next two rooms. So Raheem is gonna leave his partner out here. She's a little less thrilled with that statue while she warms up. And he's gonna force this door. It's not locked. With the power off in this section of the gut, it takes a little doing, but he's able to just yoink up the shutter. And once he steps in here and gets the Voidlight in, actually she'd probably have to be somewhat nearby in order to get some of that Voidlight. He realizes this was an arena of sorts. So that's what I rolled randomly. You know, I'm like a little cut off on the map here. I think this is actually like a longer room. We're not playing D&D though. I don't need to, you know, all of this scenery is mostly just to help inspire and to make these videos interesting. We can assume this room goes out more and we don't necessarily need to see it. What I rolled up was arena here, and I don't think that this is the kind of arena where like boxing or MMA occurs. I think this is my like first instinct. I didn't ask the Oracle or anything, as I was like, oh, probably they're doing dog fights here, and then immediately thought that bums me out as a dog owner, and I kind of hate that. Hey, solo games also have to have safety tools. You don't necessarily have to have a conversation about it because you're just talking to yourself at that point. But know what your limits are, know what you like and don't. It's not cheating to ignore a roll on a random chart or an oracle because you're just like, it's not fun. You don't feel like bringing the story in that direction. But I did find something fun with it. I think these are dog fights, but not in the really unpleasant way that we think. I think it's sort of a horrific sci-fi variation on it. I think all these dogs are genetically engineered monstrosities with gene therapy and alien DNA, and I think the rule is whatever you bring to the pit has to be 98% dog, and all the other 2% is just upgrades that you can add to it. So the things in here do not resemble dogs in any way, shape, or form, and are biological weapons, more or less. I think I didn't ask the Oracle here. I sort of felt like I knew what the story was from the bits, the like 4 bits and pieces you get from rolling on that random chart. They did a lot of heavy lifting. I think someone forgot one of their fighters here when this area was abandoned. I think that fighter broke out, ate whatever it could from the concessions, whatever food items they have here for the people watching the fights, and it now just spotted a new meal, and it is starving. So I think it has the drop on Raheem here. It's, I mean, a living weapon. He's been injured, is not in the greatest shape, and this thing is starving. So I think Raheem has to just like move to get away from it. I think this kind of feels like a vigor. I think this is sort of a physical challenge here, even if we're sort of positioning it a little more as speed. It's not quite operate to me, I wouldn't say. So he's got 2 dice for his vigor, and I am going to give him that additional die because we're running on high beam for our Voidlight to give us that advantage. And that is no hits. So I hadn't decided ahead of time what I think the risk of this is. It's pretty bad, actually. But let's take a look for our procedure for determining risk. So as I was going to determine what my risk was, I realized I did this a little bit wrong. This is kind of properly the creature attacking Raheem, and whenever you're sort of dealing with or attack or some kind of assault from something in the world, you're making a save rather than doing an attribute roll. Now it turns out my stamina is at 3, so I would have been rolling the same dice anyway, so we're fine, but that should have been a save. That's worth noting, in which case Raheem's going to lose risk amount of stamina, and I think it's like probably gonna, well, we'll see. Risk Oracle here, when you make a save, roll a die based on your level of control over the situation to determine the risk rating. So this feels uncertain. I don't think it's quite precarious yet, because they still have some tools and advantages on their side. That's no successes on that. Outcome 0 hits. The risk rating of the save is set to 3. So it is as bad as it can be. So his stamina is completely spent in that case. Good. Glad we set that back at 1. And as far as damage goes, let me double check procedures just to see. There it is. I thought I remembered that correctly. Opponents prompts to make a save to defend with it 0 hits. Take damage equal to the risk rating of the threat. Excuse me. The risk rating is 3, and Raheem only had 2 hit points left here, so he is down. Once you are out of hit points, you are in sort of a perilous situation, and if you do not receive aid soon, I believe the game specifies an hour right now, is how much time you have. I think Raheem's gonna get eaten if nothing happens here, just eaten. So even though we had her sort of on in reserve, Faith's gonna have to jump to help her partner out here, and because she's still half frozen, I think she's gonna lose a die for this. So operate. Obviously, she's turning her blaster on this thing, just desperately trying to shoot it off of Raheem, where it's leaped on him and is about to tear him apart. We should be having 3 dice for this because we're on high beam, but since we're losing a die, we're only at 2 here. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, and you should be honest with yourself in solo play, I think she's got a shot at this. We've got 2 stamina, so let's spend 1 to push to give ourselves that 3rd die back, because we really need it right now. Going back to some of our solo procedures, I don't know what this critter's hit points are. Hit protection, rather. Wow, that's what we rolled. So what's a your counter opponent? What is a 12? 21 hit protection. That feels probably not correct for just a genetically engineered dog. I'm gonna reset that to 6, because that, again, solo gaming, we sort of have to like flow from the fiction. You don't always trust the dice. In that case, the dice sort of thought this thing should be as tough as like a gunship, and I don't think that's true. We're looking at 3 hit points though, still. So we would need 3 hits on a shot with a blaster here to put this thing down. I don't think we're getting 3 hits here, but I think at least we're going to get its attention away from Raheem. I think that's reasonable to say. Well, not on these 2 dice. What'd you get, purple? There we go. All right. Well, that is 1 hit point off of our horrible fighting dog. I think that is enough to put its attention over here onto Faith. I mean, it's going to do what it's going to do. It's going to die for her next in order to stop the threat. And so she's going to have to make a save or get hurt. With her 1 die. Loving that. And she makes the save. I think Faith... I've been sort of moving through just the mechanics of this, and I haven't been narrating very well, a little bit because we have miniatures, but mostly just because I'm, still fresh. So the procedures, making sure that I'm following things correctly since we're in a playtest. New versions of the playtest have been coming out every few days or so. So I think Faith has managed to wing this thing. It looks up, grumbles, then as she's readying her blaster for a 2nd shot, hands still shaking, the thing leaps at her, and I think because she's still a little unsteady on her feet, she mostly slips, reacting and trying to get away from it, and I think she sort of falls back, and the creature manages to sort of power slide, having missed her. And she's going to have to spin on her side and take another shot at the creature. Usually doing a lot of like, hey, here's sort of the same roll over and over is Normally that's not a lot of fun, but here I think it's fairly exciting. So I'm down for it and not like mixing things up. I don't get to push this roll, and I think Faith is still pretty impaired. So I think we're just rolling our two dice here on our operate to try and blast this thing once again. Oh, that's I don't love it. Faith being down on the ground, I think this needs to do something disadvantageous for her. I mean, she's making the... Although, there's like... Alright, she's making the stamina roll. I think when we are down to 0 dice, we roll 2 and pick the lowest. Good! That's all good, because that's then just definitely a failure. And here Faith would be taken... Faith should probably be taking 3. According to rules as written, this would be the end of the line for our heroes. But because this is sort of a demonstration of the game, I think we're gonna cheat here. I think we're gonna let Faith just take the 2. She's had a rough day. I think maybe something about her experience with the spiritual entity and overcoming it and making her vow of poverty soon has toughened her up a little bit, and she's got that will to survive in her. So she's got this one more shot at it. I'm gonna spend that stamina to try and blast this thing, to try and just end this threat. But the dice are like really not on her side today. So we want the story to continue. We sort of want to see what's going on in the rest of this area. So I think the critter that we've been fearing, the hybrid, has heard all of this noise. I think it's warped mind, which is warped towards protecting whatever is in this chest, is perceiving this as a threat. And I think the hybrid is interjecting itself in this conflict. I think this gives Faith a chance to scramble away. This does not give Raheem a chance to get rescued, unfortunately. And I think in her flight, grabbing the Voidlight, probably having been dropped out of Raheem's hand and rolled towards her, grabbing it up quickly and running while these two monstrosities deal with one another. Instead of heading for the exit, she heads sort of blindly into this next area.